So we're live. We're live from downtown Mobile, Church Street Cemetery.
Graveyard.
In the graveyard.
It's not a cemetery. It's a graveyard.
It's a graveyard. Wayne corrected me. It's a graveyard. Today is Joe Cain's 188th birthday. Happy birthday, Joe.
Yeah. Glad to represent the creation he created. Not quite 188 years ago, but a long time ago, back in 1860.
So we're trying this for the first time. It's a little rough on the edges, but we hope it'll all work out well. Had to deal with the remnants of the Hurricane Delta this morning, so we're a little late to get started, but hopefully we'll make up for it pretty quick. Wayne is with us, Chief Slac of the Pamela 4. Wayne.
Good to be with you.
Today we're going to talk about all things Joe Cain. We're going to talk about his history, his life in Mobile. We're going to start with his family. Got anything to say about that?
Got a lot to say about it. Anybody that knows the history of Mardi Gras and Mobile, of course, know about the Cambodians, and I know you do, Eddie, and the Strikers and the TDS, which we're going to talk about in a little while. And those organizations go to really the root of what Joe Cain was. His family grew up in Pennsylvania. His dad was born just outside of Philly. His mother was born in Philadelphia. His dad was Joe Cain Sr. And his mother was Julia Ann Turner before they married. And they basically lived in the Philadelphia area for 30-some odd years before they moved to Mobile. So keep this in mind when we get a little farther along. What do we know about Philadelphia? We know about the Mardi.
Exactly.
And that type of celebration, which basically was between Christmas and New Year's. So even though Joe wasn't born when he got to his family moved to Mobile, surely his family being around that would have talked about that, as he was growing up in Mobile. So he would have, just like old folks talk about, the way it was when I was a kid, he surely would have been exposed to that tradition. So, we'll jump forward a little bit later about that. Julian Raven said, of course, there's no proof of this, that his parents came to Alabama to cover black. Yeah, it could have been, because that's the era, but we don't know that. The interesting thing about Joe Cain is we probably don't know more than we know because of, as you know, as I know, probably the folks at South, history is not changing, but the way we look at it changes when we find that little piece of smoking gun that nobody had seen before. So we never know exactly what happened unless we have the full, paper record or in today's word, written and spoken record. But we do know that his parents came here, bought a house down on what we call now that little hook of Spring Hill Avenue where he hooked into Dawson. And they lived there basically until Joe Senior died. And I think he was, in his 30s. He had 35, he was 68 when he died. And he died, even though some of the genealogy of the family was put out, and I will have a good time, don't get bad with it. It says, he died in Alabama, but he actually died in Mobile. And funeral took place at his house there, what was then called Spring Hill Road. And that also accounts for some of the kind of unknown, a lot of things say Joe Cain, our Joe Cain, Jr. is buried, both of them are buried in the church graveyard. But Joe Cain was born on Dolphin Street. Well, that house was on Spring Hill, what we know as Spring Hill Avenue. A lot of people don't realize once you turn out Broad Street, that little short area required by you at Spring Hill Avenue, not Dolphin Street.
Yeah.
So again, things get confused, but he was born right there in that area. And he was the first of the Cain children to be born of him.
It's interesting. They had two older. Joe had two older siblings that were quite different in age.
Yes. And I don't know why that was, but that's very obvious when you look at again, we talk about the 1800s. There's no way unless you or I or somebody research see maybe there was a time between there that they lost. We don't know that. But it is part of the difference.
I found that interesting that there was a big difference in that. But yet they all moved down here. They all live down here.
Right.
They all died down here.
Right. Once they moved, they moved the full family.
So you think that Joe Cain was born in the same house they lived on Spring Hill?
Probably just trying to interpolate it. Again, that's one of those facts we don't really know, but looking at where that house was located and all of the things that are said about Joe, he was born right in that area somewhere. And there's I haven't seen, unless you've come up with something, any indication that they moved to a different location. Because Joe Senior died, what was it, 1856.
Yeah.
And see, Joe wasn't born for a while. So, it could be that they moved, but no indication. But it's all in that same area, right around Dolphin and Spring Hill Avenue.
Yeah, Joe's father was only 68
right now. But Joe was only 72. We'll talk about that too.
Yeah, but his wife lived much longer. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So Joe was born here in Mobile. So let's talk about TDS.
Okay. Okay, now that goes back to our numbers. I don't know if anybody forget what you think you know about mummery, and if you see it on New Year's Day with all the fancy costumes. That is a part of mummery today, but the actual mummeries that took place in Europe, still Scandinavian countries, and the early Philadelphia, and also still has a lot of mummery in Nova Scotia, which you would think would be logical because that's part of the Scandinavian. Mummery was the type of matching during time, what they call second Christmas, between Christmas, New Year's, and they would go from house to house. They'd be dressed in these grotesque costumes, which kind of begs what the TDS and also later on the LC mentioned that Joe Cain started. Not fancy patterns and feathers and all of the things we associate with Mardi Gras today, but something more like you would associate with early Halloween. Just grab grab some kind of grotesque clothing, face mask, or ramps and cloths where you can look out of it, and go from house to house, and they would sing little songs, which basically said, will you let the mother win? And if the family let the mother win, they would perform a little dance or skit for the family inside out. And if they were pleased, the family, so they would give them refreshments, libations, and little gifts. So that was mummery as Joe Cain was clear about it. And also Michael Kraft as well, because Michael Kraft came from Bristol, and he's another story. But that has been a tradition. So all the New Year's Eve organizations, the Carnivalians, and later the Strikers, and then the TDS, which Joe Cain was part of founding. He was only 14 years old when he started it. And he's one of the founders. He started that as the third group on New Year's Eve, not Mardi Gras, not any other time, but the New Year's Eve group. But as one slide shows, all three of those New Year's Eve organizations did something on Christmas. There's indication some of them even did things between Christmas and New Year's as well as New Year's Eve. But they had that mummery tradition of showing up on the street on Christmas time, during Christmas, maybe as the Cavaliers in the PDS's case, as a grotesque man on view, which is, again, typical of that mummery. And even, some of our listeners and viewers will know about the country article on Indiana. They still do that kind of thing. So that's how TDS, each TDS, as an alternate to these other, as they would say, groups of higher pollution groups. And it was always, if you look at the themes, the more burlesque type than the Cabellians and strikers had. Strikers, Cabellians, trying to educate the public. TDS, or the Urban Set, or Deep Society, yeah, they had some of it pretty more entertainment.
So it was not quite as refined as the Cabellian and strikers.
No, and I think by design, based on what I know about Joe Cain, and what I've read about him, and what research you and I have both done, and Steve Johns and others, his personality is not that type of personality.
I've not seen that Joe's father was a member, but I suspect he may have been a member of the Cabellians.
It's possible. Again, I, like you, haven't seen his name appear, but again, that doesn't mean anything.
His older sister was married to George Bancroft, who was actually a Cabellian.
Yeah. I would imagine unless he just totally divided himself from all that foolishness, that if he was a member, he was in some high participating with nothing else. I guess the Tableau and the Wall Street and all of that. But again, that's one of the pieces that somebody's got to
we're now getting into the 1850s. Joe gets married 1855.
Yeah. There's an interesting story about Joe Cain and his wife. Joe was, and this may go back to what you just said, Eddie. Joe had been engaged to a lady of society, which again could, that inner Cabellian strikers and TDS. And even though he was engaged to her, he hadn't married her. And there was a dance, I don't remember whether it was a TDS, but it was some type of social fund. And he happened to meet Elizabeth Radley, who was going to ultimately became his wife. And he was, as the account says, smitten with Elizabeth. I mean, he loved at first sight, but he had a divorce. He was engaged to this society lady. He couldn't really break off engagement without causing a lot of problems for him, his family, and of course, at that time, we were slowly becoming in the Mobile area. So he took a note, fit some of the personality of Joe as well. He pretended that he was got totally drunk, falling down, and approached this young lady at the dance, and she immediately, in a huff, mortified, broke the engagement, ran off, and so it wasn't Joe's fault. And the engagement was broken, and he married Elizabeth. Elizabeth was his wife alive.
Then that was 55, and by 58, they're building the house on Augusta.
Yeah. The house on Augusta still stands. As you remember, we were there on a rainy day about 2 years ago when it was
Yeah.
Really rainy. The interesting thing about that as well, and again, there's no more proof unless we can find something. Judy Rutherford said that Joe Cain planted those oak trees in the strip in front of the house on the quote day the war between the states broke out. Now, do we know that? Not really, because we have no, except Judy saying that. And people familiar with Judy Grayfoot, Judy did not cite the sources. He'd say, I heard this. And he may have talked to an old timer that had proof of that, but he didn't write that proof down. He didn't say it. Joe wrote in his diary, but he just wrote that happened. But that would have been about the time that they moved to that house. And it would be logical that at that time, either Joe or we need some trees, let's plant some oak trees. So logic says, yeah, probably could have happened. Do we know not really. But it's a great story.
It is a great story. Now, his father was an alderman for the city. I think actually, I'd have to look at it. I think his older brother, was kind of involved in some politics also. And then Joe comes along and gets elected to be the manager of the Southern Market.
Right.
Do you know when that happened?
Not exactly, but he was there a long time. I know he was there all through the war year. So it had to come prior to prior 1960. So it wasn't long after he moved to the Augusta Street.
So he becomes the manager of that. He does that, and then the war breaks out. There's always been questions about his service in the Confederate Army. You got thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's another one of those things that we can't put our finger on it one way or the other, because there's a document that he was exempt from service as that manager of our city market. So he had an exemption, what we may call, 4F or whatever, but he had an exemption, so he didn't have to serve. There were more than one Joe Cain, in addition to him in the Mobile area, but there was only one Joseph Stillwell Cain. There are some indications that he was part of the Mobile militia. But again, we don't know for sure if he actually went to war or just was part of the home guard. There's some indication that he may have been, that all the Cains went to war and they all got wounded. But again, it's hard to take those words until we can really sit down and tell, did he really go and did he not? Now, Julian Wright said he was a veteran. But he used this interpolation of what was out there. So we really don't know, because again, and I've been meaning to do this, I haven't really had time to do it. His name, his signature, is on all kinds of documents from the city market during the war. So what we would need to do would be to go to the History Museum and research all of the documents to see if he signed some documents when these other documents said he was off somewhere else. And if he signed the documents, then he wasn't off somewhere else fighting the war. He was in Mobile. But again, that's one of those methodical things you've got to go through, like 4 years, 5 years. We do know he signed a loyalty oath, but that would have happened probably in any case if he was a member of the local militia.
I did find a clipping from Mobile paper that listed a J.S. Cain with the cadet rifle. So the question may have been, did he actually serve as a defender of the city and not necessarily in the military?
And that's what I meant when I said, like we call it,
yeah.
He could have been called up. He didn't have we don't know.
Yeah.
That's one of the things for you and I,
yeah, I would hope they do actually build on what we've done.
And I think that's one of the whole points that I've always made in what I did, I know you do too, is that, we're not writing history in stone, otherwise we would be stating fact. The reason we bring up the don't know, we still mention that, it's hard to get programs. Maybe a kid, 15 years old, 5 years out of school, will start studying that. He or she will find or maybe he won't. Maybe they'll find something else that they won't. But again, it's bad that you have history with Carnival.
I know you'll always have the legends with it. And then there's also fact that goes along that. He gets through the war, the city gets through the war, and then in the 1870s, we're going to come back to the late 1860s because there's a little bit more to talk. We're going to jump a little ahead and talk out and then come back to that period right after the war. But in the mid 70s, and I just found this, again, we talk about somebody finding something. We find out that Joe Cain actually raffled his house off on Augusta.
And that's interesting too, because you found that just shortly before the Joe Cain Mardi Society published its book. So we were able to get that in the book. It's very interesting. It's unheard of today. I'm going to move, I think I'm going to raffle the house. And the other thing I found interesting in that those cookies that you found, was they had a raffle that sold basically 300 tickets, $10 tickets. So basically he was raffling his house off in essence for $3,000. And kind of gives you what that house was valued at in the 1870s, opposed to what it may be valued today. But it was also very interesting and kind of ironic that the family has the guy that won it was a poor himself, and would follow the courthouse.
Yeah, that was interesting. And what was interesting too was they actually had two drums to pick the tickets from. The 300 tickets were in one drum, and then there were 299 blank tickets in the other, with one ticket with a drawing of a house on.
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating. I often, after I read that, I thought that would take a long time to accomplish some of the modern groups, but instead of drawdowns, we need to incorporate that type of thing. But they had a lot more interest because we might win the first draw.
Well, it's kind of like they had a little party. It was called at Oddfellows Hall, and evidently quite a few people turned out.
Sure.
It did take him a little while. I did notice that he had started posting ads about the raffle as early as October of the previous year, and it took him all the way over into February of 76 to actually raffle.
Yeah, not everybody lives that far out there.
Well, and then in between the end of the war and the raffling of the house, he and his wife purchased Arlington.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
I'm not sure what the motivation was, but Arlington was down the bay off of you can't go that way anymore, but going down Bayport Road all the way down. And it was established as almost like a park, like a Monroe Park without the ride, but where groups could have parties and picnics and just outings, kind of like they would rent or lease. I don't know how they work out the money, but they would have events down there. And I always found a lot of people, because of what we associate with Joe Cain today about all the partying and the drinking, Joe Cain was teetotal. He was not really a big drinker. And in Arlington, it was all alcohol was strictly forbidden. It was a place for ladies and children, primarily church groups had parties down there. And he always would entertain groups of children, especially groups of young boys would come down there. And one of the interesting things that, again, it kind of speaks to this personality of the man, that after one of the guys, he always was involved with the games, and almost like an activity for everything, I would say, with the kids. And after one of the events they had down there, the young boys voted him honorary governor. So he was, in other words, he was right down there playing the games of whatever they were having in Arlington, right with the kids. He wasn't standing back and watching somebody. He was right in the middle of it. And so I thought that was pretty good. And then also the fact that in the little article, yes, Arlington, it talked about, the public, especially the ladies, because it was geared for, and again, we have to look back at the time when men had different types of entertainment. Ladies and children did not have that type of ability. Sort of like Monroe Park later on, where Monroe Park would entertain a lot of church groups and ladies groups down at Monroe Park, because that was a place they could go and be safe and have a good environment. Arlington was the way.
So do you know when he sold Arlington?
No, I've never found that exact date. Again, you make an assumption maybe he sold prior to him buying the place in Valverde, or maybe he hung on to it a while after. It had to be after, after somewhere around that time of late.
Yeah, I find that it's kind of in the middle 1870s, and a lot of things really changing for Joe. He's got Arlington, he's got the house raffling on Augusta, and then he ups and decides to move to Malabatry.
And I thought it was interesting too when little article in one of the papers, I don't remember if it was Alabama Planner or which one, talked about he buying a farm. And if you go down there, that house still is there. One of his descendants live in that house. It's been totally remodeled. If you just drive by it, it wouldn't look like anything like the house he lived in. You could go in and somebody can show you where certain places were. But, I don't think about the best place to go farm, but maybe we was kind of rural. Just today, you think of the fishing community. And if you drive to Alabama, you might see some small little garden type places, but you don't see farms. And yet it's called a farm in the newspaper. And maybe that's why he bought it. He figured it'd be more self-sustaining.
Did he build the house, or the house already exists? Does anybody know?
I don't know if anybody knows. I think I kind of have just looking at the house. I think he built it. But again, I don't know that. The house looks like it's a later house. A house still that would have been standing in the 1870s.
So he moves down there. He's 44 years old at that time. So he's made a huge impact on Mobile with PDS, and we'll discuss here a little bit what he did after the war. So he moves down there, he becomes a farmer, and he pretty much lives the rest of his life there.
Right. He would come to Mobile really every New Year's Eve. PDS. Continued to do that even up until just shortly before we died. The oldest member, PDS eventually raised having a grand celebration in the 1880s period, but they continued to meet every year for the family. And which Joe would come back to that, and he was at the last banquet of his last banquet. Shortly before he died, 1904, he was the oldest member there. He was very infirm, not even get up out of his chair. He was always called on to make a speech, or make I guess you could say, the speech of the night. And that night, he could not even get out of his chair, but he did make that speech. And said it was, as always, well received. But that was the last PDS he went to. And it was reported that he was kind of the glue that held it together, and after he died, it kind of moved away. Now, we don't know whether some of the guys, some of the younger guys met were a little small. We don't know that, but I would imagine some of them probably did. But he was involved with TDS basically through the rest of his life, even though it was not the grand celebration that it was. There is a picture that a family member, a descendant, I should say, found of Joe Cain, but we think it might be Joe Cain, standing in the driveway of the Mountbatten house. It evidently, like old pictures, had been folded up in somebody's closet or wallet or something. And we had it more or less restored, and we can't be 100% sure it was Joe, but we can't be 100% certain that it was, because the mustache does not appear to be the traditional mustache that he wore. But again, we're talking about years later, and the only picture we have of him after the 1850s, 1860s is that old picture of him as an old man, where he was very little mustache. And what he had was great. So it could have been him, but it looked just that. Standing next to the house, not doing anything, which again, where you took pictures of those things.
Of course. I'd read somewhere, or heard in the room somewhere, that his youngest son, Oliver, and his wife cared for both of them later in life.
Yeah, and Oliver stayed down there. He actually had a cannery, and actually did a lot of things down by for years. Had I call it a fruit stand, but it wasn't really a fruit stand. They sold things like stands. And Oliver stayed there throughout his life, basically.
Yeah, I can claim my family through Joe Cain because of Melinda Crenshaw. Melinda Crenshaw was my great uncle's daughter. So I'm one of those in the tree only by marriage.
There's a family member in Atlanta that has been working on the Joe Cain lineage. It's got a lot of mistakes in it, talking to others, but it's still the beginning. And also there is a website, Facebook page, I think it's called Descendants of Joe Cain, that is being kind of managed by the great grandson of Joe Cain.
Okay.
They will post pictures as people find and stories. But like everything else, after family got large, a lot of them moved away. So, they're probably descendants somewhere that have information that don't know they've got information, or if they've got it, don't know what to do.
Yeah. So let's he dies. How old was he when he died? Do you remember?
He was 72.
72.
A little older than his dad, but not ancient. But again, we're looking at a period of time when 60 and 70 was considered much old. There's an article about Joe Cain Sr. talked about an old citizen. I don't consider a 68-year-old man an old citizen, but in that time he was. And Joe Cain was the same way, very firm. But we'd had modern medicine. Could he have not been so infirm? We don't know. He was considered an old man.
So let's backtrack. He's passed away. He actually made the papers as far away as New York.
No, it was when he died. There were things in New York, as you pointed to Salt Lake City, down all over the country picked up that sneeze. And what I found was interesting was a lot of them would print it, which goes back to the way you can trust me, even then, would print it as if it died there. With one paragraph, I can't remember which New York paper, then 2 or 3 New York papers, where it had a date on New York, and it talked about Joe Cain's founder, Mardi Gras, or originator, Mardi Gras, whatever word they died here. Which, if that's the only paper you read, you would think he died in New York City. But he didn't. He died manufacturing. But it's because of the renown, and I think this goes back to why we should celebrate it today. In his time, he was sort of originator of Mardi Gras as we know it. Even though the type of Mardi Gras we celebrate today was not directly tied to his minstrels, it was directly tied to the Catholic on New Year's Eve. So it's one of those fun things, we came first. We got two trains rolling and flying somewhere down. So yeah, he started the Mardi Gras Day, what we call Mardi Gras Day. But the way we celebrate it started on New Year's Eve.
So they bury him in Oddfellow Cemetery, and that comes up in just a little bit. We'll talk about that situation. So we're going to backtrack in timeline to right after the war. And that's what kind of brings us here to
the graveyard.
The graveyard. The rumor, the legend has always been that Joe Cain rode through the streets of Mobile. In some legends, it was to revive Mardi Gras in the streets right after the war. And in some of those legends, he's dressed as an Indian.
Right.
Do you know of anybody that actually said,
no,
I saw it?
No, I can answer that before you ask me. No. Kind of like we were talking earlier, the legend and the myth become part of our being in a city or in a country. And I know some historians say, well, they are not to be in history books. I continue they need to be in there, but they need to be in there that we used to think a legend is said or myth said, because they are part of our being that brings us to this point today. The interesting thing that we find about, well, two or three of them, we know a lot about the game at this time. We know some things pretty definitively because they're written by us, but we don't know some of the origins. How we kind of laugh the new Batman, because every new comes out with a new origin. Well, somewhere back there is an origin of Batman, because that's a total fiction, so we can change it if we want to. In the Joe Cain story, even I think the slide that we just saw from New York, there's 1865. That's the only place I've seen 1865 in New York. That predates Julian Rayford, 1866 by a year. We do know that there's no eyewitness, there's no newspaper account of an 1865, 1866 event. That we do know, unless it's a paper that we've ever discussed here. But we don't know happened without somebody we do know that in Joe Cain that we surmised by newspaper articles where he was in attendance at a Fireman's Day celebration the day before Mardi Gras in 1867. Also, we know that from an article that he wrote, a reminiscence, that he got some dates wrong, but where he talked about being in New Orleans on March 4th. March 4th that year was 1867. So unless he missed the calendar date, he missed the year date. Anyway, March 4th. So, and he said the next year, meaning 1868, I decided to start Lost Cause Minstrels and Elsie Minstrels. So from his written, he started Elsie and Lost Cause Minstrels in 1868. That we find out based on his writing and the other newspaper articles. Going back to 1866, Julian Rayford kind of the guy that started that day out. And all of his writings chasing the devil around the sun, that 1866 day. Now, where he got there, like to talk to Judy today, I talked to you many times about the past, but that never came. That wasn't the time to bring that up because we had to discover some of these other pieces. Did somebody tell him that? Did somebody that had eyewitness knowledge of that tell him that? We don't know, but he used it throughout his lifetime and in all of his talks and all of his literature and all of his interviews. 1866, which kind of got stuck in our tradition. Could Joe have done something on his own? Yeah, it could, which would have fit real well with the Mummery tradition. I think I'm going to just get out and do something. But we don't. We do know he didn't form the LC minstrels till too late, 2 years later. So somewhere in that time frame, Joe did something. We're not sure when he did it, what he did, but we do know he did it in 1868. And he started the group. I say he started. I don't know if there's any indication he meant for it to be a continuing group, but he showed up. And depending on what account you read, either by itself or six fellow Confederate veterans, whom he was veteran, or with 16. So we don't know how big the crowd was. We do know that basically they played music or fight. That's all they were doing. Nowhere did they say that he was dressed as Indian, Chickasaw Indian. That again comes from Judy Raven, but it also comes from that famous picture that you probably saw in 89 Mobile, maybe Huntington, Tennessee, of him dressed as a Native American Chickasaw Indian. That picture is hard unless you've got other knowledge. First time that picture appears in, I believe, one of the early history books about Mobile. Pictures. There's a small picture in the corner that talks about Joe Cain and Slac, but no reference to why they called it that. That brings up questions. Did he ever dress as Chief Slack of America? And I know you've done some research, and I've done that book, Never Get Time Done. Went through every year of Mardi Gras throughout his tenure. And yes, he would write these little notices that they were getting ready to there, or show up to me, or even the eyewitness account of the minstrels appeared, and he was called something better but never chief. He was called maestro, he was called mongrel, he was called a lot of things based on kind of what their team motto was, but never chief. He was, many times he was depicted as having the power. And that's kind of where Judy Raven picked up and started using it. Because Joe Cain used that standard advertising of the drummer with the baton, beating the drum. But nowhere did he play either part as an Indian. Sometimes he was on a mute, sometimes he was on a wagon. He was a professor, like about a minute ago 1 year, but never a chief. So where do we get to chief like that? Two places. Julian Raven and from that predates Julian Raven. Talk about the picture. We don't know exactly when that picture was made. We do know it is of cocaine. And the reason we know it's of cocaine because he took a picture of that very same studio. Don't know whether it's the same day doing that same period of him, his regular clothes, his suit, same face, same everything. Just a full Photoshop. So we know that picture was taken, but we don't know when it was taken. We know that it was taken in that year. Add to the confusion, going back to years of the teacher, about 4 years prior to this supposed event, maybe a little earlier, the TDS had a theme about Native Americans Indians of the Americas, I forget the exact thing, where they all depict Native Americans in the Americas. And there's some pictures made in a studio of other, I think we used it on the motion for this live event. A couple of other guys that maybe more than three, two guys in one picture posing as Native Americans in the studio picture. Again, we don't have data. We don't know those from the TDS here. It appears to be a little older than the chief that we call chiefs like that, anyway. But they were all within that period. We really don't know whether that costume happened to be maybe the outfit that Joe was for the TDS. We don't know, but it had that extra layer. We do know that in the listening newspapers, that you uncover the day and darkness, you was never called chief. Always like family going to make different spellings, different what we spell, may have been but never chief. So what does, why do we keep calling chief? Because it's part of our being now.
Well, a couple of things that I found that probably muddies the water a little bit. Starting, I suspect when Michael Kraft, his body, and that'll be coming out in the book soon, his body was brought back from Pascagoula. The city on Christmas morning in Bill would hear the ringing of a cowbell.
Yeah.
There's a lot of theories about why that happened. Some are that they were delivering invitations to the upcoming events. But then it also kind of wonders why it was on Christmas morning.
I agree. Really, it goes back to that memory tradition of between Christmas and New Year's. Because as you probably uncovered, Michael Kraft and his people would do things between Christmas and New Year's. They would go to houses and leave things as kind of to the poor, almost in a memory tradition. So the cow or the cowbell, even later on, would always appear in the streets prior to New Year's Eve, announcing the coming. As to why they did that, it could have been that, could have been just as a tribute to his beginnings. And as we saw a slide, the Cowbellians also appear on Christmas Day occasion in a small group, not their grand celebration, but just kind of over here.
Well, and the other two groups, both the strikers and TDS, didn't have off and on. I don't know if they were every year, but off and on they would appear on Christmas morning also.
Yes, all three of them.
So then we get to 1865. The city surrendered in April. The explosion happened in May.
Yeah.
And the Cowbellians parade, supposedly the first parade in the city.
But that did not occur
until January 1st of 1866.
Mm-hmm.
And because New Year's Eve that year was a Sunday. And because it was on Sunday, there was not going to be any parade. So the question is, could Joe have been to the streets on, say, Saturday, December 30th?
Sure. And that's the thing that, we have no documentation in those groups, even though they were secretive, we do have some, as you know, documents of who were members, many of them uncover that, but we don't have a definitive report that he did do that. But he could have. We just don't know what happened, and I hope one day I'd like to know.
I agree with you. I mean, you look at that. In 1867, we have the slide that shows that there was this mysterious individual in a mule.
Yeah.
Okay, so that kind of sounds like Joe Cain.
Oh, it does. It sounds exactly like something he would do.
So you kind of look at that 1867 compared to what happened in 1865, and that may be what it was.
And he wrote a mule in some of the L.C. minstrels. And that's one of the reasons that a few times I have gotten off the wagon back and forth and got on the mule. This is that homage back to that period. Nobody else really knows it. Don't tell me, know it. I recorded for anything, but it's one reason to add that little tradition.
Well, and then you have to look at this. I found an article from the 1876 papers, a description of the Lost Cause minstrels, and it referred to it as being their 10th anniversary.
Yeah.
So that makes that 1866.
Right. Again, that's an unknown because anniversaries and birthdays count differently, and some even modern day organizations count anniversaries and birthdays differently. If I have a parade today and one next year, I can say it's my first anniversary, or I can say it's my second, depending on how I look at that first one. So that 10th anniversary could have been, maybe they talked about it in 1866, but didn't get it. If you go back and look at even some of the modern mystics and there's beginning dates, I'll use one that I'm familiar with. Talk about their coins and their devices, say 1949. Their first ball and parade was 1950, but they organized in 49. Other groups have as their organized date, the actual date that they appeared either on the streets or at a ball. So, but that is one of those, how did they count it? And if you go look at the rest of the articles, they kind of counted, they were consistent in the way they counted it. They went 10, 11, 12, all the way up through. So they did not change that article date. I think it was KOR that did not have their 50th anniversary because of the World War I. So they postponed it and had the 50th the next year. If you go back and count, I think they changed the numerical since then. So was it their 50th or was it their 51st, but they had their 50th appearance? So it gets confusing. Birthdays, you don't count your birthday, you count the first year. Anniversary, yeah. So anyway, it's kind of, it's another one of those things that, what do we really know and what don't we know?
So you come out in a couple of years. It's now 1868. There's a group founded probably sometime in 1867 because it would take it a little while to, again, like you're saying, they may have paraded one at one time, but the founding, the effort was made in the previous year, and that was the Order of Mist, founded by Aristide Hamilton.
Right, and they, on their devices, they use that 1868 date as their founding, even though they may have met and put everything together in 67. So again, 1860, we do know that was their first appearance.
So they're going to do what the Chaldeans had done with the theme parade, and how the Chaldeans had started Comus on Mardi Gras, New Orleans, to do the same thing. So double M's, Aristide Hamilton and his buddies decide to put this together, and they're going to put it together on, instead of New Year's Eve, they're going to do it on Mardi Gras Day. But before they could do that, which was Tuesday, first off, the day before it rained that Tuesday morning. It actually rained the next day on Wednesday. So we know all about rain. And they're going to parade at night in downtown Mobile. And before they could do that, there comes this wagon with, according to a crackhead, there was 16.
Yeah,
which I don't understand, because if you count the names, it's only 14.
Craig may have 14 names. But again, I think Craig was the first one who started that. And it's interesting because one wagon, that'd be pretty size wagon for 16 people, 14 people. But again, if they were supposed to play music, it could have been a lot. Because one of the things that Joe Cain did in his lifetime, he rented wagons. So he had wagons. It wasn't like he had to go out and hunt a wagon like we do today. I got to find somebody to hunt wagons and mules or horses. So he had plenty of wagons, so it could have been a large crowd. It's interesting, too, as you pointed out, Lowe's came out, what was it, 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and this supposedly the minstrel wagon came out an hour or so early. So he did not do it in the daytime, he did not. Even though I had to look at that. Well, it was the same thing I say this time, so it was dark by the time it came out.
All dressed as monkeys.
Yeah, it's monkeys.
Which that's interesting in itself.
Yeah, again, if it was an impromptu thing and let's do it, what can we put together? It'd be like you and I, okay, this is the 10th. We're going to do something next week on 17th. What can we do between now and 17th? They were not building clothes. They were not having it involved. They were not doing it for headboard. All they had to do was a wagon and some kind of
Pretty much robbery.
So, we got the monkey out of it. So like the spiders that they go off the 39, these guys at the Elkwood Mardi, they danced the wine, and they left the Elkwood so much our day, and it was such a good time, they didn't want to quit. One out alone, Imperial Laundry, they used to do all of the convict inside the prison block. So they went over there and got these prison outfits, real convict suits. Didn't have to have all the food hats from a vendor in the square and continued to party up. And they spoke up on the organization and they chose strikers. They used that organization as their origin, even though they didn't have any qualified laws or so. So, same type of thing continued through history as we see going on with Joe, TGS, Minstrel, Double O, all those.
So we'll wrap it up a little bit with why we're not sitting in Oddfellow Cemetery in Ballabhatchery, and instead we're here.
Church Street Graveyard.
Church Street Graveyard.
Again, that goes strictly to Judy, right? And had it not been for his narrative, whether it be, and I always like to quote Mark Johnson here. A lot of people know who Mark Johnson was, Social Security man, played Santa Claus doing the Santa Claus parade, sitting square, but also was never involved. And his story of his own life. He said he never had a lot of knowledge, and he oftentimes used a phrase similar to, we hope you enjoy our little tableau and little parade based on history, based on fiction, or a little bit of both. And that's the way I look at what Judy wrote. It's based on history, based on fiction, based on a little bit of both. Where we get these legends and myths. Julian wrote that Joe Cain was not getting his due for what he did. And Julian very bluntly said what he did. He came out on the street and stirred up his town. Mardi Gras started again because it had been going on since 1702. The bus girl went to know different there. But that was Judy's story, and he wanted to give Joe Cain his proper due. The second thing Judy wrote about and told me personally many times, I want to create something that you can't do, that you just show up and do. Again, going back to that original thing with Joe Cain and the Lost Cause, after that started, other groups just were praying 100 a day. Of course, later we knew it kind of organized. So basically, And he worked for 11 years to get Joe Cain and his wife, Elizabeth, disinterred. He got all the distant family members and to say so. Got all of them to go ahead with one. The one reason it took him 11 years, as he still on the road, he had to wait for that one man to die. And once that man died, he got permission. He got the city's permission to reinter the radio. And his idea was 1860, they actually married in 1966. In 1967, he organized what he called a grand funeral procession on Troll Sunday Carnival. And it started at City Hall, went up to Square, came out to here. And they had a big ceremony, hold the grave of Joe Cain, reburied. It was not a whole big turnout. Famous picture that Mobile Press Register took on Government Street shows maybe 20 people in the whole procession. There was mothers watching for that. So we did hear the graveyard, and I don't think good marched in that procession, came down. Really, from where we stood, it was Cain's grave is over the drive, right, stage right. They actually reburied him over here on against the wall, up against the wall, and had a pretty really band. City officials from here had a nice ceremony. So we got little boy reburied. A couple of interesting comments about that too. Julian was actually at hospital when they disinterred Joe. Of course, he was in a wooden casket, and Elizabeth, there wasn't much left of the casket, much left of Joe but the bones. And Julian told the old man, I haven't heard this from anybody from Julian. I have no reason not to believe it, knowing Julian. Julian used to wear a toga, very similar to, as some viewers will remember Captain Cain, big pockets.
Yeah.
His were not quite big, but they were big-sized pockets. And he talked about when they got the grave uncovered, there was a skull root growing out of the outside. And he described it, as long as he reached over and worked that root out of the outside, shook the dirt out of the skull, held it up to the sun. And then he put Joe Cain's skull, pocket his coat, and brought it back to Mobile and put in the new casket to be interred. He also got one key. He had a key with a casket, and he got some of the latches casket. Julian wore the key around his life. Next, when he died, some of the caskets were in the Wolfe Museum collection. I don't know if all of them ended up there or not. But they had the ceremony here one day, and he wanted to teach. Well, in the off season, they remembered that Joe Cain's dad, Joe Jr., so they right over there. I think the earliest book about the graveyard was Joe was not there. So they decided maybe he'd go there with his parents, and they go all over here, back up here. So really, Joe and Elizabeth, the only people I know of who've been married 3 times. So now they're at third, hopefully they're going to stay there. But the Joe Cain procession, Judy already went by each day, it almost died 1 year, actually a 3rd year. We didn't have money to get the band, they didn't have, and all they did was go out. Thank Judy, Martin Johnson, Bob Dole, who was the mayor, and maybe a couple of managers. It was the only thing they were able to do that year. 1970 is when Julian was declared chief, portrayed chief. kind of a bonnet with two feathers, and he had like a tunic, almost like a Mexican tunic he put over his head. He said, right here in these days, he's found Red Fox Jimmy. He was a fire inspector. He told him he wanted to be the next chief. But he said he didn't want him to dress like Joe Cain did in that famous picture. He wanted him to look like a cowboy and Indian. People would know he was an Indian. So Red borrowed initially a costume from the crew of Columbus, used that as their emblem costume, and wore it for about half of his tenure, and then he had one made. So he wore that plain and satin sequin for his whole tenure as the chief. For like 16 years. We have at the History Museum, we have one of his costumes in our booth down there. It's going to open next month. History will be wild. If you don't believe it, you be told, you need to see that. You'll be told it took 2 hours. But so that's how we got to chief. And during that time, I was back in Mobile, graduated. They got out of the Army. And I was working in public relations, so I remember talking to Julian. I said, Julian, if this thing goes down, we need to do something. So I started promoting that red. We go on radio, TV shows, proclamations. We never print the big pictures of the proclamations. Did all kind of state-of-the-art in those days. If it had been the time they are now, we'd be doing blogs and Facebook and everything else. But in all of that, one of my greatest ideas of greatest failure, I said, why don't we organize a Joe Cain Mardi? We got all these parade organizations, but we got all these societies that don't parade. And they've got wonderful costumes. Why don't we organize it? They don't have to pay to get in. They just come down and march with us, show off their costumes. Great idea. We had M&M, we had some people from the Strikers and the MOTs and the Incas, other organizations that were working on our board. And first year I found out that was such a good idea. These groups are not parading because they don't want to parade. That's why they're not out there and having an interest in out there parading on the street with their costumes. If they want to parade, they have a parade organization. So we went to Plan B and started getting everybody started involved. And then it exploded. We had 40,000 people in the cemetery. We ended up having to move from the cemetery, and then we ended up with a parade of random. That had to change. So it evolved from there.
Well, Wayne, I appreciate you coming out today. Maybe we can do this on an annual basis. I'm sure we'll find some more information on Joe in the next year. It seems like it keeps coming up.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things about why this parade, why the city limited the parade, why we had to got a graveyard. It wasn't because of damage. Why a lot of and why for now we're taking it back to Napa Trail. And this has been my 36th year as that original pick, even though we don't know that Joey wore that in his parade. And how that evolved, and that's just something we talked about, and how every time the Chief Feathers passed, it was in a great way.
Always in the great.
Always great. Joe passed it to Judy when he picked that skull off his eyes. Judy passed it to Judy right there, and Rick passed it to me. We had a big ceremony in the graveyard. A lot more elaborate than those two, but it's a big ceremony in the graveyard.
Well, I want to thank Paula Webb and USA Libraries for hosting this remotely.
We've all learned something today.
It's been an interesting day, and hopefully we'll refine this as we move forward.
And as Joe Cain always said, have a good time, but don't get mad.